How's it going, guys? Gast here. Before the interview starts, you might notice that Brittany's audio is a little scratchy. That's not her fault, it's mine. I didn't record the desktop audio on my end as well as I thought, and the result of that was some scratchiness, and sometimes she sounds a little inaudible, but that's my fault, not hers. I hope it doesn't turn you guys off from listening, and I hope you guys can bear with it. It's still a great interview, and I hope you guys enjoy. How's it going, everybody? My name is Faerghast, and with me today is Brittany Cox, the voice of Ingrid from Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Brittany, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy that Brittany came on. Funny story. Basically, after the Diva interview happened, I saw Brittany kind of retweet and share on her end, and I really appreciated it. And there was like a little discussion going on the bottom part of that tweet, and it was basically like, oh, are you going to be on, or one of the users was like, are you going to be on next? And you were like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, hey.
Let's do it.
Where like the viewers of my channel only may know you as the voice actress for Ingrid. Could you describe what kind of things you do outside of acting, like kind of like your work, your other work, or some hobbies?
Yeah, so before diving into voice acting, I came from a theater and on-camera background, so I did a lot of on-camera stuff, and I've produced a couple of films and all of that stuff. My husband and I also produce voiceover demos on the side, and hobbies include sports and fun stuff. Hiking, love hiking. If anybody wants to go hiking, let me know.
So what kind of sports do you play? Do you have a favorite?
Soccer.
Soccer?
Yeah, I came from a soccer playing family. My dad, he is a surfer and a soccer player from back in the day, and so I was terrible at surfing, so I was like, soccer, let's do that instead. So I'm not as good as I used to be, the joys of getting older, but
yeah, we're
I still like doing right. And I have the knees of like an 80-year-old man now.
That'll happen.
So,
the knees are always like the first thing to like just fall apart, I find. My left knee is just like it's gone.
right? No, totally. I was like, they don't tell you that when you're like a kid playing every day. They're like, oh, slide tackle, it's fine. And you know, X amount of years later, it's like, oh, bad choices. No.
Yeah. Should have quit while I was ahead. Gotta keep playing.
Darn
That's
it.
the mentality. Also, you describe yourself as a coffee addict. How do you like your coffee?
You know, I love black coffee. You know, I take it straight up. I know that's intense, but I usually like my coffee of choice on an average day is just a either an iced coffee or a cold brew, just straight up. I used to work in a coffee shop, and so we had to taste test all of the beans and coffee. So I just got used to it without cream and sugar, and now I love it.
Much respect.
I'm addicted.
I actually also just go like black coffee as well. Like I actually was drinking some before we started talking, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like just straight up coffee, or is it more espresso, or?
It's like, coffee, yeah. Or like if I'm at like a coffee shop and they have espresso, I'm just like, yeah, just give me some espresso, and then I'll just be like,
nice, chase it down,
yeah,
straight to my veins.
Yeah, chase it down with like a muffin or something.
Yes. See, then you get some of the sugar, right?
Yeah.
With the muffin.
Yeah, you carb up for the day. So after watching your theatrical reel, it's clear that like outside of the booth, you do a lot of like kind of live action badassery. I'm just gonna say it. It was really cool to see. So, but in saying that, it's not every day where you see an actor who can switch so easily between mediums of entertainment. So, as someone who has experience in both voice acting and doing on-camera stuff, what does it take to be able to switch between one and the other with success?
Oh, that took a long time for me to learn, actually, and a lot of messing up. Yeah, so like with on camera, you have a visual, right? So you're seeing your facial expressions, and I talk with my hands a lot, so you can see my hands moving and all of those things, or I'm running after someone, or I can punch something. And then but when you're in the booth, you have to express all of those same things with just your voice, and you're not in a costume, you're not in the environment, so you kind of have to have even more imagination and kind of build all those things out, and like put yourself in those places, even though you're in a small dark room by yourself. So like with Fire Emblem and stuff, when we were on the battlefield, I would have to pretend that all of my friends or colleagues were all around me, and we were all yelling and running towards the bad guys that we were trying to fight and all that stuff. Where if I was on a film set, I could see all those things and actually do those things. So it's weird, but it's super fun. I love the challenges of each because they're both so different.
Okay, so when it comes to live action stuff, you have so much more to kind of, I guess, work with in a way.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to voice acting, it's a lot more mental. Like you have to really picture everything and like really get into character, I guess, even more.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's for me, every time I was on a physical set for a film or something, it was all about the shoes for me. I had to have the right pair of shoes, and that would immediately drop me into the character. Like if I was doing a military thing, I'd have to wear some sort of boot. Okay. Or if I was playing like a seductive, like ingenue or something, or femme fatale, it'd have to be heels. So it was all about the shoes. And yeah, being in the booth, I'm standing there for 4 hours, so I can't wear heels. I would die. So I just have to, it's a lot more of pretending and imagination. So yeah.
That's really interesting. I was really curious about how you can differ between both, but that makes a lot of sense.
It's all about the shoes.
That's the answer, really. That's the key to the entertainment industry.
Answer to everything.
Answer everything is just a good pair of shoes. Okay, so now we're going to be getting into some Ingrid questions specifically. This is a question that gets asked a lot. What's the story behind booking Ingrid?
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. So I had just moved to LA.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm originally from North Carolina, and I lived up in Seattle for a few years. Little known fact, my first video game job was with Nintendo's 1-2 Switch.
Okay.
So you know where they're like where they're teaching you how to use the controllers when the Switch first came out, and so they're like dance, pose, like that was me in the American version. So so I'd had like this much video game experience, and I'd worked with the Nintendo group before when I was up in Seattle. Mm-hmm. So I moved to LA. Second week here, I got introduced via email to Patrick, who was directing Fire Emblem. Yeah, and so he was like, "Oh, I'm really busy. I don't have time to get coffee right now," which I was like, "Cool, man, I get it." And he was like, "But let me get you on this email list." So I get on this email list of for auditions for anime. And one email got sent out where they accidentally forgot to blind copy everyone. And so you could see everyone's email. And they were all like, "Oh no," because there were some big names on this email list. And so Danny, who is one of the owners of Cup of Tea, where we recorded Fire Emblem, was like, "I don't know a lot of names on this list. I'm going to start emailing these people." So they emailed me asking if I'd be interested in coming in for an audition, just because I was on this email list.
Wow.
But they happened to not blind copy everybody. And I was like, "Oh my God, yeah." Of course, I had no idea what it was for. Didn't know if it was for Nintendo. I was just like, "Yay, let's do it." So I showed up and met a couple of people, and they just handed me the character and was like, a couple of the characters actually, and said, "Get in the booth, do your thing." Okay. And I did. And 2 weeks later, they were like, "Hey, you booked a lead." I was like, "What?" and at this point, I still didn't know Patrick was directing. So I showed up the first day and I was like, Patrick, finally, we're actually meeting. And this is so cool. And then we ended up hanging out and being in this room, working together for months. And now we're friends and it's all delightful. I never could have guessed that happened. And then showing up in the room, my first day, the writers were there. And they happened to live down the street of where I used to live in Seattle. So I was like, oh, I know all these places. This is so great.
Small world.
It's a tiny, tiny world. I think that's one of the reasons, like, no matter what I do, I think Ingrid is going to be so memorable for me because it was so random. Because I didn't really know anybody here. And it just so happened that it worked out that way.
And sorry, you said you just moved to LA and then you got in, then all this kind of happened.
Yeah. I've only been in LA just over 2 years. Oh. So, yeah, so I'm still a baby in LA terms. I've been working, I work a lot before I moved to LA and even more so now that I'm here. Yeah. So I just feel so lucky that it all kind of happened that way.
Seeing Ingrid's personality and you voicing her really now seems like something that falls into your wheelhouse. Like she's a badass, or like usually really straightforward to her allies, and is not like some, damsel in distress who's going to be like waiting for Sylvain or Felix to like sweep her off her feet type thing. And like that kind of independence and like forwardness is really a big part of her characterization. In what ways did you bring a part of yourself or your past personal or professional experiences into your performance of her?
That's a big question. I'm because I'm from the East Coast. Okay. I'm pretty straightforward.
Spade's a spade.
Yeah. Like I always say, I try to say things with kindness, even though I'm like, your project was not great. Or don't be a trash human, just be nice. I'm pretty straightforward as it is. So doing Ingrid was like, oh my God, I'm just going to play me. This is great. Easy, done. Also, when all of those scenes were like, the other girls are like, oh, put on makeup, oh, dress up. I was never that girl. I don't even really wear makeup to this day. If I'm feeling super fancy, I'll put on mascara. That's kind of it. I grew up being such a tomboy and like running around with my brother, getting into trouble, rolling in the dirt, whatever, eating bugs. Those things you do.
Eating bugs.
Yeah, not my proudest moment.
Well, it's actually funny to say that because there's literally a line where Ingrid says that like she grew up like wrestling and being covered in dirt and like with bugs in her hair. So yeah, crazy parallels there.
Yep, and it's crazy because I didn't know all those things until like I was in the booth saying them. I was like, "Oh, Patrick, this is really me. You don't understand."
I'm so honored you chose to make a character based off my life.
It's like, how did you guys know all these things? Like, I grew up on a farm when I was a kid, and so I got it. I was like, I got this. So yeah, it made it super easy, which as an actor doesn't always happen. And even going into it, I had no idea how similar we were. So it made it kind of fun.
I imagine if you voice someone who you feel already so comfortable with, I feel like it makes the experience perhaps like way more fun to do. You're like instinctively prepared for the role, which is, I think, conceptually like a really cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, well, and it was great because I had never worked on a character of this size and magnitude before in video games. And so it was great because I didn't have to worry as much about creating this character and doing all these outside things. I could focus on creating the world and who I was talking to in those relationships instead of focusing on, oh God, okay, I have to play this totally different character from me and build on top of that and think of all these other characters and think of where I am. So it was I was kind of spoiled because I didn't have to worry about that. I could just learn and focus on the other things.
Hey, sometimes you catch those breaks and sometimes you don't, right? It's a part of the industry.
Oh my God, absolutely. So, because Lord knows I've played a couple of characters that are not like that. So.
Yeah. Ingrid has several moments in her supports where she needs to defend her personal values, like her pride in knighthood, particularly with Felix's sexism and Dimitri's assertions about Glenn's death. But there are other moments where she's confronted with her own character flaws, like her prejudice against Dedue and the Discurians. Did you find these to be one of your more memorable times recording, or do you have another fond memory recording something more lighthearted and comedic, like when you chastised Joe about hitting on your grandma?
So there's so many. The stuff with Dedue and things, that I always remembered that because it was, I know a lot of people were upset about, how they felt that Ingrid was like racist and super prejudiced and all that stuff. But I think for her journey, and we talked about this a lot in the booth, was about how when you grow up having certain experiences that are negative based on things that you hear or things that you've experienced, her personal journey was, I don't like these people because of what I've heard and what Ingrid's personal experience was with them, but then learning, not everyone's like that. That's a generalization, and that's not okay. I can't judge people based on where they come from and the people they come from. So I thought that was a really cool, arc for her to kind of learn through that and get through all that. So that was kind of more of the serious side of her things. And of course with the marriage and, I don't want to get married. I don't want to just have kids. I want to be a knight and do all that stuff was always really fun to explore. Patrick might kill me for saying this.
Okay.
Can I curse? Is that a thing?
Go
Is that
ahead.
okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, you can bleep me out if you need to. But
I will not.
In the session, anytime Sylvain would come up, and I had supports or was talking to Sylvain or whatever, Patrick would always be like, "So you're talking to fuckboy?" And I was like, "Oh, right." Always said with love.
Oh, man, that's hilarious.
So funny. It just made me laugh every time. So, I always loved, and Joe and I still have not met. We'll meet at some point, I'm sure.
I hope so.
I think one of my favorite moments that from the supports was when Ingrid is kicking open the door to drag, oh my God, I'm blanking on her name.
Bernie?
Yes!
Yeah.
And hey, you need to go train. I'm going to kick open this door and literally drag you to the training field. That was, that just was so fun to do.
Yeah.
And so random. So random. And kind of mean, but kind of awesome.
Those are all very apt ways of describing things that Ingrid does.
Yeah, she's kind of mean, but kind of doesn't care. Sometimes.
Yeah, her intentions are they're good, but she just has a very uniquely Ingrid way of doing things.
Right. She doesn't mean to be a dick sometimes. It just other people see it that way.
And that's their problem.
And that's right. It's not my problem. It's their problem. Get it together.
You said on Twitter that Ingrid was part of your top 3 characters you voiced this year. Since then, and you've kind of booked new roles, has that changed at all? And whether or not that has, what makes Ingrid among your favorites?
Yes, I have booked other things since that tweet. However, Ingrid is still my top 3.
Nice.
She's so cool, man. I think it'd be really badass to be a Pegasus Knight, in real life.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, for that alone, she's top 3. I think also she's always going to have a special place for me because she was my first big character that I've done. So that's always really cool. And I learned so much through recording her and working with the team. And yeah, so I don't think my love for Ingrid will ever diminish because she's just so cool. And I mean, the fan art alone makes her even more fun. And I mean, also, we both love eating. So there is that.
Yeah. Patrick describes Sylvain like a fuckboy, but do you have a real life friend who is like Sylvain?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
He's gonna kill me if he hears this. So he'll remain nameless, but he'll know who I'm talking about.
Real life Sylvain.
Real life Sylvain. We've been friends since high school.
Okay.
So for a very long time. And oh my God, it just. Do you remember that song, Stacy's Mom Has Got It Going On? Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Don't judge me, but it is one of my personal favorites.
I loved that song. It's so fun. So this friend used to sing that about my mom growing up, and I was like, dude, that's awkward. We're in high school. Ew. So with the grandma thing, totally could relate. But
that
with my mom instead of grandma.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this friend, I have seen him get out of traffic tickets because he got a date with the cop, both male and female.
Okay.
And I'm like, how do you do this? How? I don't understand. So yes, real life Sylvain is a real thing. He is and just like Sylvain, for better for worse, good heart, great intentions, comes off a little sometimes. Yeah. But like at the core, he's a good dude. So just like Sylvain.
Just like Sylvain.
He doesn't mean to be a fuckboy. I mean, he does, but he does it because he doesn't know any better. That's why he keeps Ingrid around, gives him a level head, right?
Yeah, he's his like, am I going too high up on the fuckboy meter? You have to bring me down a peg.
Let's just keep it down a little bit. Chill out.
You were doing a panel with Anime California, and I believe it was actually another panelist that asked this question and had you and someone else provide all the answers. But basically what it came down to was you were explaining a bunch of really good tips about creating voice demos to help people get into the voiceover industry. And I know there's going to be aspiring voice actors watching this. And as a producer and as a versatile actress in that you've done both live action and animated work, what would be your best advice for like those aspiring voice actors watching?
I would say number one, hands down, is take an acting class. Because I think a lot of people, when they first get into voiceover, they focus on the voice and how many different voices they can do, which is great. It's a great place to start. But talking to casting directors and really being in the world, having some acting training, like it takes you from here to like here, like just from that. And directors really get excited about that. Because like what we were talking about earlier, you have to have so much imagination and all this stuff, and having that training or some of that experience really helps with that. So I'd say that'd be number one for voice actors who are like wanting to do a reel and things like that. I always recommend working with a demo producer, especially if you're first getting started, but ask a bunch of questions when you meet with these producers. Like, are they writing you original scripts? Are they with the price, are they including record time with direction and music and sound effects? Are they currently working in the industry, or have they not been working in the past 10 years? Because voiceover is so different now than it was even 10 years ago.
Really?
Like, the styles are super different in what people are looking for and listening for when it comes to demos and when it comes to auditioning. The end product may sound kind of similar, but all the stuff to get to the end product is so different. And yeah, I'd say, you know, especially with voiceover, the community is so wonderful and welcoming, and there's so many great resources. Like, people are very open with their time, and just wonderful people. So, you know, be a nice human. That will take you so far. The people, I mean, there's always the jerks in whatever industry you work in, but I have found, at least in the voiceover community, they are few and far between. And just being an awesome human gets you so far. And, you know, I've never been involved in another industry or involved in any other process where actors will recommend other actors. That happens in voiceover all the time.
That's so cool.
Like, what, even people who are a similar type. I had a friend who, her and I auditioned for a lot of the same stuff, and she heard about this audition, and she called me, and she's like, hey, have you seen this? And I said, no. She said, you'd be perfect for this. Like, I hope I get it, but you'd be perfect for this. Let me send it to you.
Wow.
Like, in what other industry does that happen?
Yeah, because you'd expect everything to be, like, so competitive and, like, cutthroat.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, we're everyone who's working is very competitive and very good at their job. Like, we all work really, really hard. But there's so much kindness and community in and amongst that is just really cool. So if you want to do it, I mean, join us. We're a good group of people.
So that was all the questions I had for today. Brittany, I really appreciated that you took your time out of your, I guess, afternoon at this point, or morning, early morning, to come and chat with me. Is there anything is there anyone you wanted to give a mention to or shout out before we kind of close up?
You know, I just want to give a shout out to all the amazing FIre Emblem fans. Like, I've never been a part of such a cool community before. And you guys are awesome. Like, all the fan art for every house, every character, all of the support that you guys have, and really love the characters. Like, that as an actor, that feels so good and so cool. And I mean, the fans are who we do it for, you know? We do it for us, but we also do it for the fans, and the fact that they're so supportive is just super cool. So thanks, guys.
It's so much fun to be a part of.
Yeah, well, and it's so much fun to watch and, like, be a part of in the way I am. Like, and watching all of the interviews and all of the, you know, like, all the different things. It's just really cool. And I mean, I'm super appreciative that you invited me to talk about this, because I never get to do this kind of stuff. So it's super fun.
Oh, thank you. I consider it an honor to have you on, so I really appreciate it. I hope you have a really great time kind of moving forward with your Nancy Drew booking, so congratulations with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to have a pretty busy... Well, I'm guessing you're always busy, but I'm pretty sure specifically in the next few days it's going to be pretty busy for you.
Yes.
And with that being said, everyone, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. Once again, Brittany, thank you so much for coming on. And with that being said, guys, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, please leave a like and comment down below. And if you want to subscribe, that'd be really great as well. And Brittany's Twitter and Instagram are going to be linked down as well, so you can go and follow her as well and give her some support in her endeavors with social. So, guys,
thank you.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Deuces.
Bye.